Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In a previous video, we have seen LED as a light source. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss about the second type of optical source, that is lasers. The term laser stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Here the word light stands for the electromagnetic radiation, which covers the range from ultraviolet region to the infrared region. The light has a dual nature. It consists of a wave nature and the energy. The energy contained by the light means the number of photons contained by that light. The laser light is monochromatic in nature. That means the light which is having a single color or single wavelength. Mono means one and chromes means color. Similarly, this light is coherent in the nature. That means all the wavelengths contained in a laser are in the same phase. This is the major advantage of laser over the ordinary light sources. In case of the lamp, only a small portion of the light output from the lamp is the visible region. For example, in case of 100-watt bulb, only 10% of light is in the visible region and the remaining part of light is in the invisible range. Okay, so the some part of this light is radiated out as a heat. But in case of laser, the maximum light is in the visible region. Similarly, as compared to the light output from other devices, the laser light is more sharper. And as the light is having more sharper line, the power output will be more. So this first successful laser was designed by scientist Maiman in 1960, and after that several improvements were done, and nowadays various types of laser are available. Some examples of lasers are ruby lasers, gaseous lasers, power lasers, or the semiconductor lasers, etc. So there are basically three steps required to form a laser beam. They are generally in first step absorption procedure, second spontaneous emission, and third stimulated emission. Okay, so let's see the first type of process, that is absorption. Under the normal condition, the tendency of electron in case of the semiconducting material is to stay at the lower energy level, and this lower energy level is called as ground state, which is having even energy level. If the photon of a certain energy is incident on this electron, then the electron absorbs this energy. Okay, so the total energy contained by that electron gets increased, and now this electron is possibly try to shift towards the higher energy level, that is from E1 to E2. This process we can see in this figure. Actually, the number of electrons absorbing the incident photons and traveling towards the high energy level are more, but for simplicity we are using here only one electron. Okay, so the transfer of electron is purely because of increase in its energy. Here the important consideration is that the incident photon should provide sufficient energy to the electron to cause the motion of electron from E1 to E2. This sufficient energy in this case is the energy level difference between E1 and E2. That means the incident photon should provide at least the energy that is E2 minus E1. But if this much amount of energy is not provided by this incident photon, then the electron will absorb the energy, and it will not reach to the higher energy level, or we can say here excited state, at the E2. In this case, the electron gets shifted and occupies an intermediate stage. Here, in intermediate energy level state, the electron can stay. This intermediate energy level is called as metastable state, and after some time the electron falls back to its original position and occupy that ground state. Okay, so here in brief we can summarize this absorption process. Electrons are present initially at lower energy level. Second, the photon of energy we have to incident on an electron, then electron absorbs this energy, then due to absorption the electron shift towards the higher energy level, and after some time the electron falls back to original energy level, that is in ground state. So this is our first absorption process. Second is the spontaneous emission process. After the absorption process, the electrons or atoms are present at this higher energy level. That means they possess the excited state. Now, if no incident light, that means photons, are provided externally, then these electrons stays at this stage for a short time, at the E2 state or the excited state. But after some time, the electrons fall back to its original state, that is lower energy level, or that is ground state, which is E1. Consider one electron which is present at the higher energy level. When this electron falls back to the lower energy level, it will emit the energy which was absorbed by it during the absorption process. So this it gives out the radiation, and the energy emitted during this transition of electron from E2 to E1 is simply the energy difference between these two energy levels, that means E2 minus E1, or we can say E1 minus E2. Okay, so these electrons falling back to ground state may directly comes to the ground state, or it may follows 2 to 3 steps to reach at this ground state. The spontaneous emission process we can see in this figure. Here in short we can say at starting moment the electrons are present at the higher state, that is excited electron. That next the no incident lights are provided externally. Then these electrons stays at this stage for a short time, that means at the E2 level or the excited state. Here no external light is provided to that electron. Then after that electron falls back to its original state, that means at this excited electron state, or the ground state, sorry, excited state, the electrons can stay here at some time, and after that they are trying to reach towards the original state, and last it will emit energy, that is radiation. Whenever these electrons are trying to reach to at the ground level state, then the photon energy or the radiation is takes place. Okay, the next is the stimulated emission process. Actually this is the key process of the formation of laser beam, because in this process only the amplification of light takes place. Here consider the electron or atom which is present in the excited state. After a certain time period, this atom falls due to spontaneous process and emits the photon. But before the occurrence of this spontaneous emission process, if the incident photons is allowed to strike the excited atom, then there is no chance for this atom to go to the further higher energy level. In this case, once the external photon strike to this excited atom, this leaves its position from the higher energy level and it will emit the photon. Okay, so thus we are getting here two photons at the output, one which is striking on the excited atom here, and other coming out because of the excited atom leaving the higher state. So one input photon causes the emission of two photons and the light amplification takes place. So this procedure can be seen in this figure, stimulated emission, and these two photons we can see here are same in phase and which are traveling in same direction. So here let us consider the box containing the excited atoms. Here excited atoms are present. Now if a photon, that means a light wave, is applied, here we can see here the light wave is applied, then the stimulated emission takes place and the light wave gets amplified. Here the important thing is that the input light wave should be applied to excited atom before the occurrence of spontaneous emission process. Otherwise, no amplification of input wave will take place. So rather in this case, output wave will be having some amplitude as that of input wave. If instead of excited atoms, the atoms at the lower energy level are present in the box, then these atom absorbs the energy from the input wave and the amplitude of input wave gets reduced. So in this case, to cause the amplification, two conditions are necessary. The first condition, the input light wave, that is photons, should strike the excited atom before the occurrence of spontaneous process. Okay. Next, in the total structure, the number of excited atoms should be more than that of the atoms present in the ground state. So this process in which the number of excited atoms made larger than that of the atoms present at the ground state is called as population inversion. So in previous slide we can here see that for the population inversion, here the number of excited atoms which are present in excited state here should be large than that of the electrons present in the ground state, which is nothing but your population inversion concept. Okay, so similarly the time period for which the atoms present in the excited state should be made longer. So this again makes easier to cause the stimulated emission. Thus in case of stimulated emission, if number of atoms at the excited state are more number of photons are emitted and thus causing amplification of light. All these photons are in same phase and are traveling in same direction. Now this amplified light wave is called as the laser wave, which is coherent and monochromatic in nature. So in this summary, we can see here the stimulated emission process in short. Here this stimulated emission is a key process for the formation of laser beam. Here the amplification of light can be takes place. For that amplification, we need to require here one external photon which will strike the excited atom and it will emit the photon energy. Next, for getting two photons, we are getting here basically two photons, the one which is striking on the excited atom and the other which is coming out from atom leaving the higher energy level. Okay, and then after getting these two photons, then these two photons which is having same phase, and they are traveling in same direction. So here in this way the amplification takes place. So this is all about the stimulated emission process. So the laser is consist of three process. We have completed the first, absorption process, second the spontaneous emission process, and third, stimulated emission. In the next point we are going to study the advantages of laser over other light sources. There are many advantages. Some of them are: the laser light has a narrow spectral bandwidth. Second, the light is coherent and monochromatic in nature. Next, the laser light is having good directionality. Next point, more percentage of the laser light is in the visible region as compared to the conventional lamps. Laser light has a high quantum efficiency. Light from laser can travel several kilometer distance with very small divergence. Laser light has a high modulation rate. A very fine spot of the light can be obtained at the detector, so laser is considered as a point light source. A laser has a high excellent stability, and a laser light can be modulated externally, or it has ability of direct modulation. So these are the advantages of lasers. In next point, we are going to study the modes of cavity. Actually, to form a laser beam, optical radiations are taking place inside the cavity. Their optical radiation forms an electric and magnetic field lines, and this is called as modes of cavity. So basically there are two types of modes. They are as follows. The first is transverse electric mode, TE, and second, transverse magnetic mode, that is TM. Again, these two modes are divided into three categories. The first is longitudinal modes, second lateral modes, and last transverse modes. In a longitudinal mode, these modes are related to the length of cavity. As compared to the wavelength of laser beam, the length of cavity is more. Thus, more number of modes, longitudinal modes, are present. Next, in a lateral mode, these modes lies in the plane of p-n junction. So their modes depend on the width of the cavity, and these modes decide the shape of lateral profile of laser beam. Third type of mode is transverse mode. These modes are in perpendicular direction to that of the p-n junction. These modes will decide the radiation pattern and threshold current density. Next is the factors which are affecting the operation of light source. We have studied that generally LEDs and laser diodes are used as the light sources. For wideband analog operation, the LED having high radiance as well as laser diodes are used. But in this application, the non-linearities are present in the output signal. Because of these non-linearities, and additional frequency components are present in the output signal, so the output signal gets distorted. Generally, there are two of non-linearities. The first is harmonic distortion and the second intermodulation distortion. In order to reduce these non-linearity effects, the special design techniques are used at the receiver. This will reduce the total harmonic distortion by 30 to 40 dB. Both these optical sources are affected by higher operating current and high temperature values. So this will reduce the lifetime of optical sources. So it is preferred to operate these sources at low currents and low temperature value. So my dear friends, we have covered the light source as the LED and laser diode. So let's take revision on them. The first is LED and second is laser diode. In LED, which is having low efficiency, and for laser diode it's having high efficiency. Second, the response time is slow for the LED, and for laser diode it is fast. Lower data transmission rate is required for LED and higher data transmission rate is required for laser diode. In LED, broad output spectrum is present. Here, narrow output spectrum is present for the laser diode. In a LED, the light beam is not coherent in nature, but for laser, the output beam is coherent. For LED, lower bit rate, and for laser, the bit rate is high. It consists of low launch powering capacity for LED, and for laser requires high launching power. In LED, it provides more distortion at the output side, and but for laser, it provides less distortion. In the LED, it is used for the lower transmission distance, but laser can be used for the greater transmission distances. Dispersion is more in LED, dispersion is less in laser diode. Less heating problems are occur in LED. Heating problems are more in laser diode. Less temperature sensitive is a LED and more temperature sensitive device is a laser diode. Here in LED simple construction is required and for laser construction is complicated. With LED transmitter circuit is simple, with the transmission circuit is complicated for laser diode, and last lifetime is more for LED and the lifetime is less for the laser diode. So this is the big difference between the LED and laser diode. So in today's lecture we have seen the laser, in that absorption, stimulated emission and spontaneous emission. After that we have seen what is mean by cavity modes, what are their types, advantages of laser diode and comparison between LED and laser. So in this way we are going to end our today's session with the motivational quote. Make your life a masterpiece. Imagine no limitations on what you can be, have or do. So friends, be confident, be happy, stay positive. Thank you so much.